Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the player ratings. Everton 1, Leicester City 1 at Goodison Park. A good point in the end considering the game of football that we've all just witnessed. As I said in the instant match reaction, a bit of a weird one, this one coming out the game, because we had so many opportunities to win the game, and Leicester did have a couple, to be fair, as well. James Maddison had a couple that were blocked by Fabian Delph, but when you think of Richarlison's header in the second half from the corner, you would have expected him to at least get that on target, and if he gets it on target, it's a goal. Is Richarlison's chance in the first half when the ball is fizzed across the box from Anthony Gordon. You look at Seamus Coleman's chance as well. On another day, one or two of those go in and we maybe get more out of the game, and we certainly needed more out of the game tonight. I think we needed 3 points, although a point, as I said, given the circumstances, isn't the worst result, and it's probably a good result in the minds of a lot of Blues. I think we realistically needed all three tonight. However, having said all of that, and judging off those couple of sentences I've just said, you would maybe think that it was a good performance. You would maybe think we worked hard, battled well, deserved more out of the game, and were just unlucky. But it wasn't a good performance whatsoever. We were very, very, very poor, and a lot of people will say that the goal and the getting a point in the last couple of minutes, is overshadows what was an extremely poor performance. And to an extent, I would agree. To be fair, as I said, whilst I think we had chances to win the game, it was an extremely poor performance. And as I said, that's the contradiction and irony of football, isn't it, really? We weren't very good whatsoever today. In fact, we were absolutely abysmal. That opening 10 minutes is up there with some of the worst football you will ever see from an Everton team. And we've seen some shite this season, trust me. And, as I said, we allowed them far too much time on the ball, far too much time, and space to move the ball around, to play it in the midfield, to, play it out from the back, to give it to their forwards. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you played against a Sunday League team and you allowed a Sunday League team, a team full of players who, work as, teachers or brickies or driving instructors on the weekdays, and then turn up on a Sunday for a game of footy with their mates. If you allow them time and space on the ball, the majority of footballers, certainly professional footballers in the Premier League, but the majority of footballers anyway, would be able to find the pass, would be able to turn inside out, make a decision, because they've got all the time in the world to make those decisions. And if you give teams all the time in the world to make decisions, they won't struggle to find a pass, they won't struggle to move the ball forward, they won't struggle to create opportunities. Whereas if you put pressure on teams, if you don't give teams a minute to think, or even a second to think when players have got the ball, then teams will make mistakes. As I said, there's very few teams in this league, one or two, who can deal with that pressure and can deal with that, that press and that constant pressure on them. The rest of the teams, if you put pressure on them, will panic. Defenders will panic. They'll kick the ball out, or they'll give it away, or they'll make a mistake, or they'll rush the decision. And we saw that, a couple of times tonight, and we just didn't exploit it enough. Whether it was because we were shattered, which makes no sense, because these players have had 10 days off, so how they can physically be fatigued or tired is beyond me, or whether it was just they couldn't be arsed. And if that's the case, then that's extremely worrying as well. But the 2 or 3 times that we did actually get at their defence and put a little bit of pressure on them, we forced them into making mistakes. But for the rest of the game, we were far too comfortable with allowing them to just play the ball round, to move the ball round, to pass it round the back, to pass it round the midfield, to do what they wanted with it without any real pressure. As I said, it was too easy for them today, Leicester. They'll probably be disappointed and they'll feel like they've been robbed, but we could have won that game, but we made it too easy for them. I know Jack says still bossed it. It's a mad one, because, maybe this is just the way I see games of football, but I look at bossing games of football and I think of, some great performances of, the past, and teams that are just really good at football and absolutely over. Don't get me wrong, Leicester were the better team, they were the more comfortable team, but I don't think that was necessarily because Leicester were unbelievable or they're amazing. I just think that was because we were so lethargic, we were so bad, we were just so, we just didn't really look like they either cared or they had the fitness to be able to get about the pitch. It wasn't like Leicester were just unbelievable, their passing was amazing. Their passing was good because we were giving them 33 fucking hours to play a ball. We were giving them 25 minutes to decide what ball to play. It wasn't because they were unbelievable and we were just being dominated by a better team. As I said, most teams in the Premier League had, given the time that we give Leicester today, would have walked through us. And that's really, really worrying when you think of our next two fixtures and the teams we've got to play in our next two fixtures, because if we allow Liverpool that time and space as what we allowed Leicester in that opening 10 or 15 minutes, it'll be about 6-0 within 10 minutes. Leicester had a chance after 30 seconds today to open the scoring, and Seamus Coleman makes a great challenge, and then they do open the scoring after 5 minutes in a similar situation. As I said, we do that against Liverpool, it'll be about 4-0 before we've even woken up. Same with Chelsea, and these are two really, really, really important games. John, I don't know who you support, mate, but I really don't understand why you're on an Everton team when you're clearly not an Evertonian at 12 minutes past 11 at night, to be perfectly honest with you. But while you're here, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. But yeah, I thought the midfield was poor. I thought Iwobi worked hard and ran round. I think he was doing a lot of it on his own. I think Alan was poor. Delph put a couple of good challenges in and blocks, but as a midfielder, in terms of controlling the game and controlling the midfield, I thought he was shocking. Yeah, it wasn't great, but we got a point. And sometimes a point is enough. Listen, a point is certainly better than no point, isn't it? And it could be a point we look back on at the end of the season and think, how important was that? But we won't know that until May. It could be a point that we look back on at the end of the season and we think, if only Richarlison scores that header and we win that game, we're safe. So, you know, it is what it is, I suppose, isn't it? It is what it is. Anyway, this is the play ratings. This isn't the instant match reaction. We've just done the instant match reaction there. We've just spoke for half an hour on the instant match reaction. So if you do want to check that out, please do so after this video. Though this is the player ratings, we're going to go through every player and we're going to give them a rating. I can almost guarantee that the majority of you will probably disagree with the ratings that I'm going to give some players, because as I said, I think it was such a weird game of football, and a result really, really does swing how certain people see a game of football. So, you know, there's absolutely no doubt that people will disagree with what I'm about to say, but that's the point of these videos, isn't it? You know, people aren't meant to agree. We're all meant to have opinions. We're all meant to, you know, differ on those opinions. But yeah, it was just a weird one today. We really need to stop scoring these last-minute goals, by the way. You know, a last-minute winning against Newcastle, which made me ill for 2 weeks. I've already been ill for the last 2 weeks. I don't know why, but I've already been ill for the last 2 weeks. We've scored a last-minute equaliser today. We scored a near enough a last-minute winner against Arsenal. Stop doing this. You had 90 fucking minutes to get, 85 minutes to get back into a game, and we leave it till the 82nd minute. Don't get me wrong, I'm not 92nd minute. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, because it's better than nothing. But you can't keep doing this to me. Anyway, let's get straight into it. We've rambled for long enough. Jordan Pickford. I'm going to give Jordan a solid 7 today. I haven't watched their goal back. I'm led to believe it was a deflection, which would be interesting because ours was a deflection as well. Was Jordan Pickford at fault? I don't necessarily think he was. Leicester had a couple of opportunities, but they didn't really have many that troubled Jordan Pickford. He had to make 1 or 2 saves, but they were certainly saves that you would expect them to make. As I said, their opportunities more come from them just getting in behind our defence, but then their finishing not being particularly great, which I suppose is what our opportunities come from as well. Well, as I said, I think he was competent. I think one thing I was really impressed with Jordan Pickford today, and specifically in that second half, it was his demanding. There was a couple of times when, be it Dele, be it Fabian Delph, be it Richarlison, be it Anthony Gordon, were just all sort of walking back when Leicester were on the attack, and when Leicester were breaking forward and looking likely to double their lead, and they were just walking back. And once Jordan Pickford had dealt with it, or Everton had dealt with the situation, Jordan was straight out and screaming at people. He was organised. He was almost like he's a leader, which can't be said about a certain other player that I'm going to talk about in a second. But yeah, I thought he was calm. As I said, he wasn't massively called into question today, but what he did need to do, he done well. His distribution was okay, I suppose, as good as it usually is. But his leadership and his screaming and shouting at players, he seems to be the only player that does that at the moment, the only player that's willing to scream at his teammates for not working hard enough, for not getting back, for not battling. And yeah, I thought he done well today. Vitaly Mikalenko. Actually, do you know what? I'll give Jordan an 8. Vitaly Mikalenko. I'm gonna give Vitaly Mikalenko a. Do you know what? I'm gonna give him a 7 today. I actually was quite impressed with him. I really, really was. I think he was the best out of the defence. I do think he was the best out of the defence. I think he saved his fellow fullback on a couple of occasions by tracking back and putting a tackle in. I thought he made some good overlapping runs, going forward as well. It's a shame that Anthony Gordon and Damari Gray decided not to find them. I thought his battle was there. He won a couple of really important headers. Again, I don't particularly think he put a foot wrong today. His involvement in the goal, I'm not too sure. So, people might say, oh, well, he done this for the goal, he done that for the goal. As I said, I haven't watched it back. And to be honest with you, as soon as this video's over, I'm going to bed and I probably won't watch it back. But from being in the stadium, I thought he looked okay today. Thought he worked hard, thought he battled. And as I said, I thought he looked the most competent and the most calm out of all of the back line. And he certainly was dealing with the most. We had a couple of really good attacking players from that Leicester team, running at him and chasing at him. And okay, they got him behind a couple of times, and again, he's still learning, and when we're playing against a competent Premier League team. But yeah, I thought he was worthy of a 7. Going forward, I thought he looked impressive. And defensively, I didn't think he put a foot wrong either. So yeah, he's getting a 7. Ben Godfrey in the centre of the defence. I'm going to give Ben a 5 today. Bit of a weird, strange performance from Ben Godfrey. At times he looked like he was in control, and at times he looked like he didn't know where he was or what he was doing. Yeah, as I said, that opening 10 minutes is just really, really stung the back of my mind, because that's all I can think about is how bad we were in that to concede a chance like we did in 30 seconds was nothing short of absolutely abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. To concede an opportunity like that straight from kickoff, you can't sit here and give the centre-backs any more than a 5 or a 6 when that is being allowed to happen. As I said, I don't think it was as great as the games. His passing was what it was. He didn't really do many of them arching runs, battling runs, which we're used to. Them, sprints into the midfield. And yeah, I think defensively we allowed Leicester. And to be fair, and I'll be fair and I'll be honest, Leicester had 2 or 3 chances that they would probably look back on and go, do you know what, we should have done better there. I don't think they were as clear as Richarlison's 2, but they had 2 or 3 chances that they would have looked better. They would have looked on and thought we should have done better, and that was because the centre defence allowed them to. So I'm gonna give Ben Godfrey a 5 today. Yerry Mina. In fact, I'm gonna give Ben Godfrey a 4, and I'm gonna give Yerry Mina a 5. Weird performance by Yerry Mina today. It was the type of performance for me that screamed, I've only just come back from injury and I've been thrown in what is a really difficult game. At times, he looked really poor and really edgy. And at other times, he looked as solid as we know he can be, and as demanding as we know he can be. I think there was a good few opportunities that he put his body in the way, and he stopped Leicester attackers from getting forward or from creating chances or from ultimately getting into forward areas. Certainly in that second half, I think he was clearly not very happy with his midfield, because there was about 5 or 6 occasions that the ball was lumped up and Yerry Mina decided to run into the midfield and head it, because he clearly understood that none of the midfield were capable of heading it. But yeah, it wasn't as usual demanding performance. It wasn't as usual unbelievable performance. But again, given the circumstances, only just coming back from injury against a decent team, I suppose. Yeah, he was all right. And then Seamus Coleman, again, interesting one for me. I'm giving Seamus a 4 today. I am. he gets a massive boost for that tackle in the opening 30 seconds. He ultimately, stopped us from conceding a goal, which was a big challenge. But, his shot in the final 10 minutes of the game, you've got to be doing better than that. It's as simple as that. You've got to be doing better than that. And again, his overall play of getting the ball, and every time he gets the ball, his first instinct is to cut back and go backwards rather than go forwards. I think it was a couple of 50-50s that he could have committed a little bit more in today, but more so for me, and you might think this is being pedantic, or this is being picky, or this is being harsh, but I picked up on it in the instant match reaction. I'll say it again here. There was one situation which just really pissed me off today with Seamus Coleman, and it showed a lack of leadership for me. It showed a lack of belief, and that was, he was pissing about with the ball, as he does, cutting inside out, cutting left, cutting right, cutting back, cutting forward, knowing full well that I think it was Dewsbury Hall was on him and was likely to, again, win the ball. And instead of just kicking it out or kicking it forward, he was trying to piss about with it. And in doing that, he got the ball taken off him. Now, that in itself is a massive mistake. That's worthy of criticism. Of course it is. Because we're 1-0 down, we're searching for an equaliser, we're in a relegation battle, we need to get something out of the game, and you're pissing about with the ball at right back and losing it. But it was what followed that really got to me. And I don't know whether this is because I seen it in the moment. This could have just been a couple of second thing that I exacerbated in my own head because of the situation that we're in. But he goes down to his knees and puts his head on his hands. Now, as I said, this could have just been for 1 or 2 seconds. But to me in that stadium, it felt like it was for about a minute. And what was worse is Leicester would obviously continue to attack because they'd won the ball on the edge of the box and they were breaking forward. And instead of him getting up and thinking, shit, I'm going to chase back here, I'm going to throw a tackle in, I'm going to make sure I win this back, or I'm going to make sure I put pressure on him, his instant thought was to go down, put his head on his hands, as almost as if to say, fuck, I've given a chance away there, so let's just watch and see what happens here. And I can't remember whether it was Godfrey or Mikalenko, but one of them managed to get a tackle in and saved him. And then he gets up and he carries on. And I was looking, thinking, that's not leadership. That's not what you want to see from your captain. That's not what you want to see from one of your defenders. Everybody makes mistakes, that's fine. We know Seamus Coleman shouldn't be starting games of football for Everton. That isn't his fault, and the situation is the situation, and that is what it is. But you don't give the ball away like that and then go down holding your head on your knees when the opposition team is still attacking. You get straight back up and you go again. And as I said, it might have just been a 1 or 2 second thing, but for me, in that situation, it felt like it was for about 15 seconds, and it left a real sour taste in my mouth. So although he put a couple of decent challenges in, although he made a really, really good tackle in the first half, that just stung me. It stung me because I just looked at it and thought, no, absolutely not. You're not getting away with that. You're not getting away with that. Because for me, what had gone through his brain there is, right, we're conceding here, so I'm just going to go down, put my head on my hands, accept that it was my fault and watch it happen, instead of thinking, fuck, let me get back up and avoid this. Because it was still a way to go for Leicester. It wasn't like he conceded like against Liverpool in the derby, a one-on-one chance. There was still a lot to do for Leicester, but it was his reaction that just stuck in my throat. And that's not good enough for me. That just simply isn't good enough. It isn't. So yeah, Seamus is getting a 4. Into the midfield then, Fabian Delph. I'm going to give him, I don't know, I'm going to give him a 4 as well. Look, I understand he made 2 or 3 good blocks. I think he denied James Maddison on 2 occasions with blocks that were from shots that were on target, and that's fine. That's fine. Had he have been a centre-half, he'd have probably got a much higher rating today. But as a midfielder, and what we wanted out of our midfield today was control, was ability to control the pace of the game, ability to get at Leicester's midfield, not give them all the time in the world on the ball, not give them all the space in the world on the ball. He was non-existent today in that. And as I said, there was a couple of chances that I thought, there was a couple of blocks and tackles that he put in that I thought, again, you're thinking, he done well. But I thought he should have went off at half-time for Decore or Van der Beek, because as a midfielder consoling the play, he didn't console anything. He was off the pace, he looked unfit, he looked injured. And as I said, maybe a 5 is probably a fairer score because he put a couple of, good challenges in that might have ended up in the back of the net. But in terms of controlling the midfield, the pair of them today, Delph and Alan, were just non-existent. On to Alan then. I am going to give Alan a 4. In fact, no, I'm going to give Alan a 3 because he didn't put the challenges in that Fabian Delph put in. He didn't block the opportunities that Fabian Delph blocked. And as I said, in terms of controlling the midfield, well, there was absolutely no control in the midfield, was there? We know Leicester's midfield ran the show. They controlled the possession. They controlled the ball. They controlled ultimately the pace of the game, and that's fine. Again, people will say, well, Leicester are a better team, so what should I expect? I actually expect the midfield to put a bit of pressure on them because Leicester aren't a great side. They're a decent team. They're, as I said, a competent Premier League team. They're not a great team. They're not unbelievable. They're not Man City. They're not Chelsea, although they seem to think they are. And their fans seem to think that they're great. And I don't know why they were singing Champions of England, you'll never sing that, despite the fact that we've won it 9 times, which is a little bit mad. But, as I said, it goes back to my point before. If you allow Premier League footballers 2.5 hours on the ball to find the pass and to move the ball, they'll do it comfortably because that's what they're trained to do. It's not until you put a bit of pressure on them and you get at them that you start to see mistakes. And I think Fabian Delph and Alan today were both really, really poor. So yeah, Alan's getting a 3 for me today. Thought he was really, really poor. Thought he'd come off at the right time. As I said, for me, Frank Lampard should have brought Donny van der Beek on or Abdoulaye Doucouré instead, but he didn't. And there you go. Alex Iwobi then. I'm going to give Alex Iwobi I'm going to give him a 6. I don't think he was quite as active as he was against Manchester United, but I still think the work rate was there. He was wanting the ball. He seemed at times like the only Everton player, maybe with Anthony Gordon, that was willing to pick the ball up and drive with it and run with it. And yes, his passing was poor today. His passing was poor. His final ball was abysmal today, as was everybody else's. But he never gave up. He picked himself up. He still went on. He still decided to, try and create chances, pick the ball up in midfield. He was the only midfielder that seemed to want the ball. Both Alan and Fabian Delph didn't want the ball whatsoever. Whereas, as I said, Alex Iwobi seemed to want the ball. He seemed to want to, utilise it and move it forward, etc., etc. And yeah, it wasn't his greatest performance, but I don't think he's somebody that will be heavily criticised after that tonight. Because, as I said, he was a bit of a passenger at times, but he was more active than the other two in there, and he actually looked a little bit like wanting to create something. And in that first half, he was, although he wasn't brilliant, he was better than everybody else, but because everybody else in that first half was fucking absolutely comical. Onto the attackers then. Demarai Gray is getting a 2. Yeah, just don't think he was very good today, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Don't think he was very good whatsoever. In fact, I'll give him a 3 because maybe a 2 is a bit harsh. Yeah, he had a couple of shots, which one went narrowly wide from a well-worked corner. The other went wide. But other than that, his end product wasn't good enough today. His decision-making wasn't good enough. I think he was put off by the Leicester fans singing about him, weirdly. And yeah, he just wasn't great. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and talk for 10-15 minutes on Demarai Gray. He wasn't very good. He's on that pitch to create chances. He's on that pitch to score goals. He's on that pitch to give us that bit of something special. And at the minute, he's not doing that. And today was exactly the same. Anthony Gordon then. I'm going to give Anthony a 6 today. As I said before, I think his work rate was there. I think his dribbling is good. I think his ability to win fouls is good. I think his awareness is good. His flicks are good. His passing is decent, although it wasn't great today. But his final ball, his final product, crosses into the box, shots at goal, they do need improving. And I know he's had something like 5 goal involvements in the last 7 games or whatever it is, but his crossing today was poor. That free kick in the last 10 minutes is shocking. To not even get that off the floor. And you could say, we kicked the floor or whatever, but you've got to be doing better there. He had a couple of crosses in the first half that were poor and weren't weighted well, despite doing the really, the hard work to get in those situations anyway. But yeah, as I said, Anthony Gordon is a talent, and Anthony Gordon is somebody that has got a lot of potential and a massive future ahead of him. And you can see that. You can see that because he's got ability, he's quick, he's got a clever football IQ, and he can pull it. He can pull those moves off. He gives heart, he gives desire, but I just think he needs that. He needs that bit of extra training on his final ball, his final product, his shots, his crosses. He needs that. Because he wasn't good enough today in that sense. Simple as that. And then Richarlison, I'm gonna give Richarlison I'm gonna give him a 5, to be honest with you. And I know he scored the goal that ultimately has got us the point, and that's great, and that's fine, and that's lovely, and I'm amazed at the fact that we've come away with a point in that situation. But the reality of the situation is that he missed. As I've said before, we were poor today. We were poor, and for all the people that'll say Leicester controlled the game, and Leicester controlled the pace, and Leicester controlled this, and Leicester controlled that, and Leicester had chances, this, that, and the other. Richarlison has missed 2 sitters there, 2 blatant sitters, and nobody can disagree with me. Not any Leicester fan, not any Everton fan. Nobody can disagree with me. He's missed a sitter in the second half from an header in which he stood on his own, and he's missed a sitter in the first half where the ball's been fizzed across the box and he's volleyed it out. If he'd have just took an extra touch, it'd have been a goal. If he'd have just put it on target, it'd have been a goal. Schmeichel was sat next to me having a hot chocolate. So yes, he scored the goal, you know, and it took a deflection and it went in, and ultimately it's what's gotten us a point, and that's fine and that's great. But he missed chances that in a relegation battle, when you need to pick up points, when you need to win games, he can't afford to miss, and he did today. And as I said, I'm not going to sit here and give him a 9 out of 10 because he got us back in the game, because he could have had a hat-trick. And do you know what? It's not a could have as in, could have had an hat-trick today if this or that the other. He should have had an hat-trick. He absolutely should have had an hat-trick today. And, you know, who knows, we might have gone on and won that game, because I think our chances were better than Leicester's and were clearer than Leicester's. So, there you go. Onto the subs bench then. Rondon is getting 7. Because he ultimately come on and changed the game, and I don't care whether I will get criticism for that. I don't care whether people will disagree with that. He ultimately come on and changed the game, and the reason for that is because our tactic today was the same tactic as what it's been in recent weeks for me, and that is lump the ball up towards the target man. Now, when the target man is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, whether people like him or not, whether people think he's playing well at the moment or not, Dom does that well. He hasn't been doing it as well as what he has done in previous years, but he's done it well, where he can hold the ball up, he wins the headers, he can take it down. He's able to win that ball and to keep the possession for us. Richarlison isn't that same player. I'd have had Rondon on at half time, because you knew that whether he's slow, whether he's not a great finisher, whether he, plays football as if he's playing in Timberland boots and all that, for all the criticism you can give him, he's a big lad and he will hold the ball up. And he showed that today with the goal. Good ball in by Dele Alli. Rondon holds it up brilliantly, gives it to Richie, and we score. But for the other time he was on the pitch, he ran his arse off, he worked hard, and he is a target man. So that tactic of lumping the ball up works with Rondon. It doesn't work with Richarlison. He didn't win one header all game. Fofana won every header. As soon as Rondon come on, it was like, oh shit, I've got something else to deal with here. He changed the game for me today, Solomon Rondon. And Dele Alli come on and, put the cross in for the goal. But I still don't think Dele Alli was anything worth screaming about. It was probably his best performance in an Everton shirt, but I don't think it was anything worth screaming about. But Rondon today worked hard, he battled, and he ultimately changed the game. He brought us something that nobody else could brought us, and he gave Leicester a problem, and that problem ended up in a goal, which I think deserves credit. And then Dele Alli, I'll give Dele a 6 today, because he come on, as I said, he put the cross in to Rondon for the goal, which was a good ball in when it looked like it was going out. And as I said, it probably was his best in an Everton shirt. It probably was his most productive in an Everton shirt. Do I still think it's worth screaming and raving and shouting about? No, because I still think there was times when he was lackadaisical, he was lethargic, he was walking back when he should have been running back. I still think there was a couple of passes he could have made that he attempted and they were poor. But, he done okay. I think both substitutes changed the game, to be fair. And Frank Lampard should have made the third substitution. Had we have lost this game today, I'd have probably spent 15 minutes talking about Frank Lampard not making the third substitution, because how Donny van der Beek or Abdoulaye Doucouré didn't replace Fabian Delph is absolutely beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. But there you go, look. They are the player ratings. Let us know your thoughts on them in the comments section down below. If you're watching live, massive thank you to everybody for getting involved. As I said, there'll be a lot of ratings here that people will disagree with, because that's the nature of the game. But if you do disagree with them, then let me know your ratings. Leave them in the comment section down below if you're watching the YouTube video. David says, thanks for your player ratings and insight. Great show. Thank you very much. Again, I apologise for the lack of preview from myself. Massive thank you to Jebbo for filling in. Jebbo done an absolutely brilliant job. Don't forget to go and subscribe to his channel. Check him out. Check him out on Twitter and stuff. Brilliant videos, brilliant content. And he done me a massive favour by stepping in late last night to do that, because I was absolutely bed-bound, and probably will be bed-bound again tomorrow because I've just screamed my head off for 90 minutes. But yeah, big thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this one, leave a like. If you're watching the YouTube video, leave your comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new as well, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.